And that's actually how I recommend most agents should start and build their business, because it's the most immediate opportunity you have.
So the big question is, what are the top agents doing to absolutely crush it in real estate, grow their teams, and add more transactions year over year while so many struggle? If you ever thought about this, you're not alone. No one has been able to get the answers until now.
We spent the last few years helping agents sell billions in real estate, rubbing shoulders with top producers, which got us thinking, how can we expose more people to these insights to help raise the standard in the whole real estate industry? We then realized that we could help bridge the gap by getting the secrets from the best of the best so that you can succeed. My name is Andrew Dunn.
And my name is Peter Michael. Welcome to Elite Agent Secrets.
Let's go into topic 2, which is what they should be doing for you, because I think this is going to give us a flatbed into the third part of this, which I think will then open up the whole questions, because I think we're going to be able to unpack how the strategies of inside sales can benefit people, and also the impact on the recruiting training side and other strategies that people can use to benefit them. Because the one thing that I know a lot of our listenership are going to be concerned with. So there'll be 2 buckets. There's obviously the successful people with leads and teams and all that, and they might have someone already. And then there's a lot of the newer agents who are struggling, and they're going, I can't afford inside sales agents. Like, I don't have the bandwidth to train someone. I don't know what I'm training them on. How do I know what script converts? Like, I'm struggling. So how can I teach someone if I'm struggling, right? So what I want to do is, if someone was to get an ISA, what should they, first of all, be doing for them? And then we're going to go 100%. Kind of full circle and look at if they were to hire in-house or virtually and what that could look like for our listenership. Because I think the big thing that I want to touch on here is, for everyone listening, this isn't actually an expensive thing to do. And there is shortcuts to success that will enable you to leverage your time. So if you are heavy on that, you just want to be closing the deals, which we all want to be doing. We completely understand that you are able to just do that. And actually, for the price of, a cup of coffee, you can have leads being worked every day. It gets down to, some pretty small numbers. When you really span it out, and especially if you leverage how much time. So how much your time is worth, that this is an incredibly worthwhile endeavor. We do this in-house too, right? It's an incredibly worthwhile endeavor. So with that being said, what should people who are looking for an ISA, are interested in it, or have only just heard about it now, what should they be looking for an ISA to do for them? Is this an inbound role? Is it an outbound role? What are the different kind of elements to it?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And you're getting to the crux of it, right? This is exactly, the question you should be asking when you're even considering a role like ISA. I'm actually going to take a step back, guys. Taking a step even before, what should an ISA do or not do for you? The number one mistake I see people make when thinking about ISA or hiring an ISA, in-house, in-house, outsourced, virtual, or in person, the number one mistake they make is they don't have the lead generation system figured out yet. You said it really well, Andrew. It's like, hey, well, you're not sure what script to teach them. You're not sure what activity they should be doing for you, right? That is probably the number one issue people face when they hire an ISA, and the number one reason people fail when they hire an ISA. They're not really sure what they're supposed to do, and they don't have the right advice, the right information on what they should be doing. My recommendation to anyone, right, is to understand that ISA is a role on your team. Before you outsource that role, the same way before you outsource the administrative tasks, the transaction management, you are the transaction manager, you are the administrative assistant. You should have some knowledge of what that role is. You should have some understanding. And when you're outsourcing or you're delegating part of the lead generation activities for your company, this is the lifeblood of your company. If you outsource it incorrectly or to the wrong person, or you don't give them enough training or the right steps, your business is going to suffer big time very quickly, right? I think it's very different than some of these other tasks that you delegate. Leveraging lead generation is a big, big, big deal. My recommendation is you have to have a system that you're working already. Whether that's prospecting your own database, whether that's cold calling, whether that's generating and converting online internet leads. It doesn't really matter which one it is. You just have to know which one you use, which is your primary source of generating business. Because once you have that identified, then you can add leverage. Okay, I need to delegate some of these tasks. And I think that process of having a system and then adding leverage and delegation, that order of things, people skip that. They'll do it the other way around. I'm going to hire an ISA. I bet they could do this. Well, you're not. Well, I mean, well, they probably can, but do you know how that works? Do you have the coaching and the education and the training to work? I'll give you a great example. A lot of folks want to hire an ISA to do cold calling and to work cold leads, which is a great way to use an ISA. Probably the most scalable source of business is cold calling because there's so many numbers out there, right? That's great. That has the agent. That's the first week. Have you ever worked cold leads? Have you ever gone to an appointment from a cold lead? Have you ever closed a deal from someone you didn't know, that they already know, like, and trust you? Because it is a completely different landscape, a different script, different objections, a different approach. And if you've never done it before, the ISA has very little to do whether you're going to be successful with that. You got to be ready. You got to go to those listing appointments where they don't know, like, and trust you. You got to go to that buyer, that buyer meeting, a buyer appointment, without them knowing, liking, and trusting you. So it's really, really important to make sure you understand the lead source, the lead generation strategy first before you add that leverage, right? Then, but let's skip to the next step of, okay, great. You have a system in place. I'm the Facebook lead. I know how to convert Facebook. I've converted Facebook leads in the past. I can grab a FSBO and take them to the finish line. That's great. I can take an expired and take it to the finish line, or a circle prospecting lead, or whatever. I have some idea of how to do it. I need leverage to increase the value of my activities. What does that mean? It means I want someone helping me doing 8 hours of cold calling every day instead of me doing 2 hours a day. I want to do 10 hours a day. My 2 and another person's 8. That should help generate more opportunities for you and generate more deals. Or you're generating 10 Facebook leads, a week, or I don't know. I'm gonna make up a number, 10 a day, right? And you're able to kind of keep it. That's already too many for one agent, by the way. But anyways, generating 10 a day, and you're able to kind of keep in touch with those. Well, you know what? I want an ISA to help me get in touch with more of those Facebook leads. So I can generate 20 a day, 30 a day, right? And I can actually get in touch with them and get more opportunities to talk to them. Because once I'm talking to them, I know what to do, right? That is a virtuous cycle. That's the right way to add leverage into lead generation. ISA just happens to be one of the best ways to add leverage into your lead generation system, but you need a system. And I like the way you split it up, Andrew. I do it the same way. Inbound versus outbound. That's typically the big areas that ISAs can focus on. When we say outbound, we mean cold calling, circle prospect, calling expireds, calling for sale by owners, calling people that don't know who you are. They have no idea who Andrew is, who Peter is, who Gus is, right? And you're giving them a pitch, you're delivering some value, you're trying to get their attention and build that relationship. When you're doing cold calling, this is a big misunderstanding. You're not always shooting for the appointment when you're cold calling. No. You're just trying to get your foot in the door and build that rapport and build that relationship. And that's really hard to explain to someone that's never done it before. They're always shooting for the appointment off the bat. And that's just not how cold calling works, right? Cold calling is about getting someone's attention, building that rapport, adding massive value to get their attention. And that's just step one of a multi-step process to get them to become a client. And it doesn't matter if it's expired FSBO or circle prospecting. That's the way it actually works. These one call closes to get the appointment, guys, this is 2021, almost 2022, sorry. And we're not drowning in expired listings like we were in 2009. You got to work these now, right? This takes some effort. This takes some follow-up, and it takes some massive value to get them to work with you. And that initial cold call is the beginning of that relationship and of that conversion process. If you understand that, then an ISA can absolutely help you, because they're going to make it easier for you to get more step ones. You want more people to be on step one of that process. And then you can take them to step 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, right? The funnel gets bigger. You get more people in at the beginning, and you can take them to the finish line. That's the outbound role in a nutshell. Inbound, which has been a huge part of the growth of ISA, especially these last 2-3 years, particularly these last 2-3 years. And the big impulse has been Facebook. I mean, I'm just going to tell you that. That began as we started this company, PowerISA, in 2015. We were primarily an outbound cold calling company in 2015, right? Fast forward to 2021, if I had to give the company a new name, it would be the Facebook lead conversion company, right? I think it's like 80% of what we do nowadays. Helping people follow up with, qualify, and convert more of their Facebook leads, because that's what it's a dominant lead source in the industry, particularly for internet leads, right? Internet leads, Facebook is probably where you're going to start. Facebook and Google, it's got some combination of both, right? So those are massive lead sources.
So Gus, I know we're making this distinction between inbound, outbound. I think for anybody who's hearing this for the first time, what will be most valuable is also to give them a little bit of context of your authority on this, because you were previously featured. So if you haven't checked out those episodes, go back to some of our first episodes, because Gus was also a guest. Before we were talking about you being an agent, how did you actually get inspired and were like, let me go from being an agent to running one of the biggest ISA companies that with one of some of the highest conversions on the inbound and the outbound? Like, give us a little bit of context for everybody who's hearing it for the first time.
That's a really, really good question. So I started out as an agent with my wife. We were a husband and wife team, and we only worked our database for years. We worked our database. My network, referral, recommendation, that's how we built the business. And that's actually how I recommend most agents should start and build their business, because it's the most immediate opportunity you have, right? But that being said, I discovered it through a class. I was at Keller Williams at the time, and they had a big, they had a course. This is like a legendary course now. It's not offered anymore. It's called Leverage Lead Generation. I took that class, basically. I met the instructor. We did some coaching, and I thought it was really interesting. In that class, it was called Leverage Lead Generation, but it should have been called How to Hire Your First ISA. That's really what it was called. And there was another class out there in the industry called 90 Listings in 90 Days through Craig Rieger, which was actually a client of mine, ironically now. But back then, that wasn't an ISA class, but it should have been called How to Do Outbound for ISAs. It was essentially, that was the topic of the class. So I educated myself on new ways of generating business. It was, again, I'd used my database for years. I wanted to grow, add more legs to the stool, add more legs to the business to grow. I was growth oriented. And this ended up being one of the best ways I saw to grow. And initially, I was only focused on outbound prospecting. I had my first ISA. I trained them up. I did calls myself, right? And the moment I was able to teach them, and they said 22 listing appointments in 1 month, I said, okay, I'm onto something here. This is a really interesting model. I liked that I could teach other people to do it, not just be successful myself. Not that that's easy, but that's one level of mastery. But that I could teach it to somebody else and get them working relatively quickly. For me, that was just amazing, right? It took me years to get to that level. Well, once you're in that mindset and in that world, and you know how to teach this, and you've learned it through an instructor, some materials, practice, I grabbed everything I had learned and I transmitted it to somebody else, and they were massively successful within a couple of months, right? That to me was mind-blowing that could happen, that was possible. So the next thing I tried to do was, okay, I bet I could build a team around this, because my number one issue with ISAs in my market, which was Seattle at the time, was keeping them in the seat. That was very challenging. They wanted to be licensed. I was competing with Amazon and Redfin and Zillow, which are based in Seattle. People might not know that. They're all based in Seattle. I was competing for talent with them. It was challenging, and it's only gotten more challenging nowadays, right? Getting talent and retaining talent. I said, I bet I can build an ISA team in my hometown, which I'm from Mexico originally. I bet I can do that. And that's how it started, Peter. I built the team out there. I had people, knocking on my door. I told other people in my brokerage in Seattle, I said, hey, I'm going to go build an ISA team. I think I can do it. People knew me as the ISA guy by then. I was the ISA guy in my brokerage. There was 200 people there, right? So I was the ISA person. I was teaching classes on. That's the thing with me. Anytime I learn something new, I want to teach a class on it, and I would just do this in my brokerage just for fun, Because the best way to become a master at something is teach it to somebody else. That's a true thing. And that's always helped me, and it wasn't a business of mine. I just taught these things, right? And so I became a really good teacher for my own ISA team. And people got interested. And as soon as I told them I was going to build a team in Mexico, I had 4 people give me $10,000. One of them got aggressive, like, hey, you're not taking my calls. I want to give you this money, and then you're not getting back to me. What's going on? And I was like, whoa, I had never had any, this is real estate, people, right? We always have to chase the leads, like intensely, even if it's a referral. You got to call them and get them in there and nail them down. I had never had people come to me and like get aggressive with offering me money. Okay, take my money, God damn it, get me this service. I need this ASAP, right? So I knew then I was onto something. And that was my first 4 clients. They were in my brokerage and they said, here's some cash. Just do this. Just solve this problem for me, please, right? Because they knew they had a system. They had systems. They were either cold callers or they were doing internet leads. I think 3 of the 4 were cold callers and 1 of them had internet leads. And they had never been able to hire someone to add leverage to their business. And they said, Gus, if you can do this, then I'm set. Because then I can just plug them into my system and we're good to go. You're a really good instructor. You're like a born teacher. Both my parents are teachers, by the way, just in case you didn't know. And I like doing this, and I like building teams, and I like talking to people. And they said, Gus, can you just go handle that for me? And that's how it started. That was the beginning. And then I hired my first 5-person ISA team in Mexico. And now I have 120 people working for me in that role. Fast forward 6 years. There's more to it than that, but it looks like a straight line. It's not a straight line, but this is where we are right now.
It's got a few hiccups, few pitfalls probably.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But right now, I think we're in a space where we are the number 1 team in North America doing this role at this level. I don't want to brag, but I think we do it the best. And one of the reasons we've done that is, because we've actually stayed this size. We could have been a 500-person ISA team or a 1,000-person ISA team by now. We're actually a little bit more focused on making sure people are successful. And we're always focused on that, trying to achieve that for folks.
And now when it comes to what an ISA does, I know we focused on calling, but what's your take on like texting ISA? Like, do you have that? Because you're saying now instead of pounding the phones, we're pounding the CRMs. So do you also have the ISAs like working within the CRM, doing other tasks, organizing leads, social media, or
Absolutely.
like what does that look like?
So great question, because within our company, we don't refer to the ISA as a phone role anymore, right? And we haven't done that for like last year.
But that has switched, right? Because initially it was just a phone, X amount of calls over X amount of days.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just phone call. It was just phone call, right? So now the ISAs are there to respond to, qualify, and convert the lead, however they interact with you, right? They're there to respond, qualify, and convert, kind of regardless of how that person reaches out to you. And that's, again, it's still, I'm not going to lie, it's still primarily phone calls. But in some markets, it is 50%. We're converting 50% of the leads without ever speaking to them on the phone, text messaging or direct messaging, right?
Our listeners, something just to cut you off, sorry, Gus, but this is something really important we've spoken about, and then you carry on. But it's meet the leads where they're at, not where you're at. Meet the leads where they're at. So we had a great example the other day. Was it nurses, people like that, and it was no, it was high level security. They're not allowed their phones in the building because of like your security issues and stuff. So they can only converse via email. Now these guys are working 12 hours plus a day. We're talking high level military security, all this crazy shit. The only way they can communicate is via email to their business email. Meet the lead where they're at. Just because a phone is convenient to you doesn't mean it's convenient to them. You have to be the person that's malleable, not them. Right? 100%. The only time you get to decide if you're more malleable than they are, right, is when you don't give a shit if you lose that business anymore. If you're at a point in your business where you don't care if you don't get that deal, then you can do that. If you only want to talk to people, refer it out, do whatever you want, lose the lead. But a lot of people listening have the mentality of, I want them to meet me where I'm at, and yet they're struggling to make 6 figures a year, right? You're doing it wrong. Meet
100%.
the leads where they're at. Communicate how they want to be spoken to. So I just wanted to throw that in there because it's a really important delineation between success.
Absolutely. You've got to meet them where they're at. I will add a little bit of a corollary to that, right? Meet them where they're at because you're starting. They have no idea who you are. They have no idea what you want sometimes. They can't even remember they clicked on that ad. We can get more into that. But, you have got to you have to show some empathy because they might not have any clue. You're always starting from zero. And I think it's a you don't have a choice but to be where they're at because you're just starting. The goal of those initial interactions, and they could be smoke signals for all I care, to be really honest with you, right? You're beginning the interaction. The goal, though, should be getting into a two-way conversation with them. That is the goal. That is part of the conversion process, is to get them into a two-way immediate conversation, whether that's Zoom, phone call, in person. I think right now, for during the pandemic, we were only setting virtual appointments, right? And they actually ended up being way more convenient for agents. They didn't even realize this, right? I think some people have never gone back, by the way. They only do virtual meetings now. They only meet a person either to list their home, like put the lockbox on there, or to show them a property. That's the only time they're actually interacting. But all the previous work can actually be done virtually, very efficiently. But that's the goal. Get them into that two-way conversation because nothing converts like that still. It is the best conversion mechanism, that two-way conversation. But I agree with you, Andrew. It is not the only way to get started. You get started wherever you can. You start the conversation wherever you can, and you use scripting and use objection handling to earn the right to get into that two-way conversation. You've got to show value first, whether it's a buyer, whether it's a seller. And that's really where the ISA can help because I bet no one converts leads like you, the owner. That's true. Probably not. Maybe you're the best at it. That's great. But if the ISA is well trained, you've given them the tools, they're going to get you that opportunity to be that face-to-face conversation or that two-way conversation. That's what you want. You just want more at bats. Mike Mendoza, a mentor of mine, would say he was obviously a former baseball player, right? So he loved this analogy. All I want is more at bats. Give me more opportunities, right? Because I can take it to the finish line from there. But the biggest limitation we get as agents is how many of those conversations are we having? Or if you're having one a month, you're not closing many deals. If you're having one or two a day, you're closing a lot of deals because you want to get more opportunities to talk to new people.
It is so common. And this isn't just real estate, by the way. It is so common for any business owner where the conversation looks something like this. And it'll encompass a lot of people potentially listening as well, where it's like, oh, I closed 100%. I closed 90% of every lead I interact with. And we're like, yeah, you fucking speak to one person a year. And it's your mum. Of course she bought a house from you. What are you talking about? Yeah. Right? And then it's like a lot of people though, it's like, okay, you need more at-bats. This is what I was trying to say. It's like a lot of businesses in general, real estate, like we keep harping on about, this is a business. They feel more confident with the closing part of the process than they do with the generation part of the process, which is why there's different companies, systems out there that actually do, like you said, they do the generation bit. They get you the at bat, and then you get to swing. And what you'll find is all of a sudden your conversion rate isn't 90%, 100%. It'll go down, and it might be 50%, or it might be 30%, and then it goes to 60 over time because of you just keep working them over years and years, or however it looks. But it's like, you need to fail forward. And the only way you can do that is by having a lot of at-bats, figuring out what you're doing wrong with a process, with some type of mentorship, with help of a company that is solid, that you then go, if I do this, if I do X, following Y system, I should get Z. That's how this works. It's how every business works. It's exactly how real estate works. It is, I need to generate more. I want more deals. This is the outcome. Everyone listening to this wants. We want more deals. I love it. When every agent who's listening to this, the goal is you minimum make 100 grand a year, more like 200. This is what we want for everyone listening. right? That's bare minimum.
Absolutely.
The goal is, how do we get you more deals? When you're listening to this, it's like, okay, well, you need more at-bats is the first stage. Well, how do you get more at-bats? Well, you need to convert more conversations. Well, the ISA can help the conversion of conversations, but what do you need before that? It's exactly what we spoke about earlier, what Gus said. You need a system to generate the opportunity to have the conversation, right? There is no, like you could have Gus's ISA, you could have his number one fucking ISA, right? And if they're not doing outbound, they're taking leads, and you've got no leads, they're not doing anything for you. So this is a multifaceted process to building a business. There's something that is going to be, and this is why, by the way, that you get something sustainable and predictable. This is exactly the reason, because
100%.
you have consistent leads, you have consistent conversations, and then you get the at-bats. From those at-bats, you figure out what you can convert at. It doesn't matter what it is. I've quoted this a few times to Peter in our business relationship, and it's to do with Jim Rohn and whether people love him or hate him. And he always used to say about, you need to figure out your ratios. And he'd say, so you might go out, and he gives a sales analogy, and he goes, the top person in your office might convert 1 in 10, right? And then he goes, so how do I, and he goes, I need to figure out my ratio. So I'll go out and I find out I convert 1 in 100. So he goes out and he does 100 calls, he converts 10. I go out and do 1,100 calls and I convert 11. That's how I win. And he said, what's funny is what happens is when you do 1,100 calls and you convert 11, all of a sudden your ratios start to get better because you're having more at-bats, right? So he's like, your ratio goes from 1 in 10 or 1 in 100. Now you get 2 in 100. And then you get 3 in 100, right? And then all of a sudden you're number one. Right. And it's like, it's not by chance. You got to figure out your ratio, and your ratio increases the more you do something. Right. So everyone listening, it's about, the ISA is about getting you in front of more people more consistently, so you can figure out what you realistically convert at. Because the only way you're going to predictably scale your company to multi 7 figures is to have a consistent source of leads that are consistently starting conversations that you can consistently go and broker deals with. That's what we're really talking about. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. Now, before you go, we're giving access to a private training we did where we revealed the top 3 niches to get listings today completely for free. So if you want access, you can go and download that training at eliteagentsecrets.com. We're regularly releasing new trainings, guides, and cheat sheets, so make sure to head over to eliteagentsecrets.com and sign up so you don't miss out.